Are we ready? Okay.
Oh.
We're good. It is 2 minutes past the hour of 9 o'clock. It's Miss K, still holding it down up until the hour of 10 o'clock. I'm joined in studio by a special guest this morning. I am joined by podcaster and now author Nathan. Good morning.
Hi, Vivian. How are you?
I'm doing well. How's your Monday morning?
It's okay. It's okay. It's good. Happy.
What is your go-to kind of kickstart the Monday morning?
So usually it's coffee. It doesn't seem to work, but somehow I've gotten stuck in the habit of just taking it. So coffee, yeah.
Yeah, I don't get the privilege to have coffee in the morning. I just need to rush out. But let's quickly talk about you. Nathan, you are a podcaster. You give people an opportunity to tell great stories. But let's hear from you. Who are you? And of course, where do you come from? And what are some of the things that you're passionate about?
Yeah, so my name is Nathan Das Neves, as you've mentioned, and I'm a software engineer. So I studied software engineering at Nust. I think probably 2 or 3 years ago. And currently I'm working at a fintech company, Aztec Consulting. And I'm also a writer. I've been writing for the longest time as I can remember. I think at some point I wanted to choose it as a career, but it just didn't make a lot of sense economically, especially in Namibia.
Yeah.
And also at some point you kind of realize that the difference between separating your passions with your actual career, because you don't want your passion to be something that feels like work, that you have to keep doing it. You just want to, produce when you feel passionate, when it's creative. You want the boundaries in place. And I think the podcast thing started about a year ago. Because I also seem to have a passion, for conversations. I think that sort of came from the writing side of things, because most of the time you find yourself stuck in a singular mode of thinking, and you kind of want someone else to bounce the ideas off.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And I think the podcast was sort of like a good opportunity to get to sit with interesting people in different disciplines and kind of just get their perspective on things. And also, I think what triggered it specifically was, for me, before I got to choose the career that I wanted to choose, I didn't necessarily have a clear understanding of the available careers out there.
Yeah.
Because most of the careers that we're exposed to is just doctor, lawyer, teacher, right?
Yeah.
And that's because that's what most of the people are talking about. But there's a lot of interesting careers, because I really fell in love with software engineering, just because someone presented it to me, from like a passionate.
What sparked that software engineering? What is it about? Like I get doctors. Yeah, I'm going to save somebody's life, and that's probably what the spark is for you. But software engineering, what got you? What sparked you?
Software engineering, it's okay. Honestly, the first time people were just saying, no, that's the thing that has most of the money in it. So that was the pitch, right? But when I got to doing it, I think it's sort of like a different way of expressing your creative side. People don't seem to see that, but I think because just like writing or whatever you do, you're given tools, in which you can direct your, creative energy in. And with software, this is people that create apps, websites, basically any form of technology that helps solve a problem.
Absolutely. We are here this morning to talk about Nathan's book. Nathan wrote a book, and congratulations on writing that book, by the way. There was a point in my life when I thought I could be an author, but that didn't work out. I don't know, it didn't work out. Let's quickly talk about your journey towards becoming an author. When did you decide, I want to write? You were podcasting, you were listening to great stories, you were putting that out. When did you decide you wanted to write?
Yeah, so I started writing maybe when I was like 10 or...
What were you writing at 10 years old?
Comics.
Okay.
Comic strips and, poetry, songs. And yeah, like I said, I thought I would choose that as a career. But at some point it started feeling as though I have a bunch of different stuff that I don't have sort of like place where I keep them. So I would have random papers where I write my poetry, my songs, and they would just disappear.
Get lost.
So I think two years ago, I decided to try and see how the whole writing thing would go. So I wrote a book ago last year, and tried self-publishing it. It's on Amazon right now. But that was a very short book. It's sort of like a self-help but fiction book.
Is it like The Alchemist kind of?
Exactly like it.
No, I see that. I see what you did there. I see what you did
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, because it was hard. It was hard for me to actually read fiction stuff because I just didn't see what the purpose is in reading, outside entertainment.
Yeah.
But after reading The Alchemist, I sort of understood that even in fiction, the author really has something they want to say, so they just embellish it in like a story so that it's more digestible for people to read it.
I think every person that decides to write a self-help book should do that because it did the same for me. I don't like self-help books, but I was able to learn and read and hear some stories and so forth. And that's why I love that particular book. Let's get back to your book, Chasing the Spark.
Yeah.
What inspired it? What is it about?
Yeah, so Chase the Spark is basically about ideas. So I think what sparked it was like in software engineering, it's obviously all about creating, new things. Everyone is trying to create an app. Everyone is trying to create a solution to a problem, with technology. And almost everybody in like a classroom of 30 people, everyone had sort of like an idea they were trying to create.
Yeah.
But after time would go by, 3 years later, and maybe two people actually completed their ideas. So I wanted to try and find out why, because if you look at everything that we're using now, the tables, everything that we're using, it actually started with an idea at some point. So basically, that's like the bricks to build any house that you're trying to build. So if we all have this potential to think, we all have problems because that's where ideas come from. It's using your thoughts, in trying to solve a specific problem. Now, if we all have the ingredients to do that, why is it hard, for most of us to actually, fully pursue and accomplish our ideas? So I was trying to go through the entire anatomy of an idea, obviously by investigating the lives of people that have, created exciting things that we use today.
Are you planning to self-publish Chase the Spark as well?
So there's gonna be a book launch, a book launch event, it's planned for the 24th of June, and yeah, I think at this point because we don't have necessarily publishing houses, like that in America, so it might be a combination of self-publish and help from outside.
All right. Let's get back to podcasting and now writing. Do you ever find that these two things that you're doing, hobbies as now as they might be, because you're a real person with a real job, do they ever coexist or do they influence each other? Did your podcast influence your book, and did your book influence the way you podcast?
Yes, I think it does. It does a lot. The sort of like the point of intersection, if I would call it that, is exploring ideas. I think that's the whole point. With writing, you're kind of doing it in isolation with yourself. You obviously get a lot of information from books, from videos, but with podcasts, you get to sit with an actual person and then kind of bounce your ideas off, and then they bounce their ideas off with you. And I think I have a thing for deep conversations, and it's hard to just stop someone and say, "Hey, let's have a deep conversation."
Let's go for coffee.
Let's go for coffee, But with podcast, it's kind of like an excuse, and also at the same time, people get to learn from actual people that are doing actual things.
People that they actually know and see.
Exactly. And the things that they would want to do. If someone wants to become a software engineer, let's say, or a journalist, it's better to hear it from someone, that has done it, and someone that you can relate to, that's in the same country maybe, all in the same demographic or with the same age range that you have. So it's easier to because that's where everything comes from. Even books, it's people's experiences, but it's easier to get it like firsthand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's talk about Chase the Spark again. If I read it, what would you like me to take away from that book? What would you like me to learn? Or perhaps would you like me to be inspired?
Yeah, I think the main thing I'd like people to take is that they should understand that everything that they're hoping to achieve actually is in them. Not like in an esoteric way, but it's kind of just like every single thing. If you reverse engineer every single thing that everybody has done, it started as a simple thought. And that's I use the analogy of like a matchstick. If you light a matchstick, that simple flicker can set an entire forest on fire, or it could just disappear like it never even happened. But what's the difference? I think it's having ideas. It's sort of like opportunities that you need to pursue because the what makes the difference is the actions that you take
Yeah.
upon those ideas. So I kind of I divide it into two phases where the first phase is the emotional phase because every time everyone has an idea, they're so excited, they filled with energy and emotion. And I think that energy and emotion is what separates good things from mediocre things.
Ordinary, yeah.
Yeah, because the more passionate you are in something, the more you would excel compared to other people. But
That's true.
yeah, and that emotion usually lasts for like a short time, and if you haven't used it, if you hadn't capitalized on that, once it dies out, it's harder to actually follow it through. You know.
Very valid point you're raising there. My next question would then be, what do you think is more important, talent or hard work?
And talent or hard work, I think hard work is important because even with talent, there's a point in the book where I give the difference between, the debate between quality and quantity. Is it better to do something a lot of times, which is hard work basically, or is it just good to do something once that's really really good? Yeah. So let's say if it's, I think they both
Let's look at athletes, for example.
athletes. Yes, they both work together in my so you can have someone that's talented in a specific thing, but yet still again, what would separate them from everyone else is the amount of hard work they put in their talent. Like
Yeah.
let's say Kobe Bryant, for instance, when he was they were interviewing him, and then he was saying there's certain people in his basketball team that he could see that were actually really, really talented. But what made him excel over them was that he was working twice as hard
Yeah.
as they were. So they would have practice sessions in the morning, and then he would be there, and then in the evening he would go for a second practice session
Yeah.
on his own. So sort of like that at the point when they're trying to catch up to you, your hard work pays off.
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely. Top of the morning motivation here with Nathan and I. You are set to release your book soon. How do you feel about
Yeah.
just letting your little child out into the world?
It feels strange, it's some. So I think I've been writing this for about 4 years now. So when you're writing it, you just want it to finish at some point because
Yeah.
it does become draining. You're not always inspired to write it. At some point, you're just like, okay, when can I finish it? Because I think I've gone over it maybe 4 times now, like reviewing, fixing. And yeah, but once it comes to an end, it leaves you empty, like you don't have something,
To do
to do
anymore.
anymore. You have to look for something else to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's that mixed feelings in there.
Right, we've come near the end of our conversation. When will Chase the Spark be out and how can people get a hold of it?
Yeah, so it's scheduled for tentatively the 21st of June. So there's gonna be a book launch. Yeah, how can people get hold of it? Right now, I think they can probably get hold of me on Instagram, the podcast on the podcast channel, which is Chef Has Podcast. And my email is kind of long, so it's hard.
Maybe you can
It's hard
just
to say.
DM, and you can DM us as
I'll
well.
DM you, yeah, and then you can put it in the description.
Absolutely. But with that said, do you have any final words you'd like to leave? Maybe with an author you'd like to inspire. Maybe somebody has a sleeping writer in them. Some final words for them.
Yeah. First of all, I want to say thanks for actually having me here.
You're welcome.
It's really interesting to get to share this. And I would say for an inspiring author or anyone that's trying to pursue whatever their aspirations are, is just to do it and to do little increments every single day. Because I give the difference between a wish and a goal is a wish is anybody can wish, to have something. A goal it's a wish, but with delivery dates. It's like if you have a goal to do something in December, what are you gonna be doing in the months in between? What are you gonna be doing in the weeks in between and the days in between? You have to have sort of like an action plan. It doesn't have to be big. The thing is, if you can manage to do even like 5 minutes every single day, you would be surprised with the outcomes, in the end.
Absolutely. That is Nathan Desnevis, podcast host, as well as now author of soon to be published Chase the Spark. You're listening to NustFM. It's Miss K here, and I'll be back on the flip side.